So Michael, we've been asked, why did we go to KM World, so Knowledge Management World in the US? What have we seen? Do you want to share a bit?
I mean, from a European perspective, it's always interesting to learn what happens in the US because they're leading the way in the information sciences. Also, like KM World, Knowledge Management World is one of the largest conferences out there with hundreds of participants from the public and the private side. So that's always good to venture out and to learn.
And it had the main topic of human versus artificial intelligence. So it was quite on spot for the topics that we discuss every day.
Exactly, the big topic that is out there. What is the role of humans in that information management field? Do we still need them?
And so, what do you think?
Well, the hypothesis for a couple of years, so we did a lot with know-how management, and so far this has been a purely human discipline. But now with AI coming in, it's definitely a new player on the block. And so the happy news is that still so far there is no AI that can completely replace humans, but it's the combination of both. So getting the collaboration between the AI side and the human side currently still provides the best outputs.
What was striking for me was that actually most innovation in the CAM field in the US comes from either government or military, which is a bit inverse for us, but of course there's a lot of money there, so it makes a lot of sense. And I think those are also the companies we can look into to see how they do knowledge management to compare it to Europe. Yeah. So, I mean,
it's striking, probably to add, it's a conference with hundreds of people, kind of one of the leading conferences on knowledge management. But when the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, has 17 people there, that kind of starts you, gets you thinking about their ability to process know-how and go after us for our taxes.
Mm-hmm. And from maybe, because we discussed it already, but what was, from your point of thinking, what was the thing about AI that struck you most, or where you think, okay, actually we're on the same track, but we know better?
Well, it's basically AI doesn't work just out of the box. And what was really striking for me is that the companies that took care of getting information and know-how right for people in a structured way, in a how do you say, concerted way, a prepared way, getting up-to-date information, relevant information to people, and who have that basis and that foundation now, that they are the ones who can actually really create a lot of output and progress and benefits, basically. The ones who did not do that housekeeping so far cannot just plug in AI and get the same benefits working. So that's definitely the takeaway from my side.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, it was very interesting that you had a lot of companies saying, yeah, data quality, and then the first sentence in their sales pitch was, no, with us you can do everything. So basically, it's very similar to here, that you have the feeling AI is magic, and I think that's quite a danger. But was there, like summarizing from our discussions, any myths that you say, okay, those are gone for you, for good, about AI?
Well, I think we should be careful with gone for good these days. But it's kind of the myth that AI is going to get rid of us all. I mean, that's basically busted, at least for the time being. How about you?
Well, I think for me it was a lot that actually companies still need to keep the house in order, as you said, and that they have the feeling they can skip that step right now. And I think that's, I know this is not possible.
And for companies, it's dangerous. I mean, right now, the premier application of AI is in customer service. So if a customer gets one or two bad information, outdated information, of course that's not good, but it's not a disaster. But if you take it over as a coach for your employees, and the AI gives wrong information about somebody running a machine, in a factory, or even worse, like drilling in the oil and gas field, or doing some quality assurance in a car business, or doing some software wrong. This has disastrous results and effects. And so I think this is something which will be taken care of, or needs to be taken care of in the next step, in the next evolutionary step of AI.
Second thing I would say, what was happening was that you could feel a strong overwhelm of people with the whole topic of AI. They don't know where to start. So that's quite similar between the US and Europe, I would say. That at the moment, the feeling is, yeah, I need to do something, and I get explained that everything works with a blink of an eye, but I actually don't know how to start. So when we discussed this 80-20 approach that we use for actually getting it started, which that was very interesting because we had good conversations in that directions.
And bridging that divide, like for knowledge managers, they have to explain to decision makers what makes sense and what this whole thing is about and how it can contribute to the business, which they have a hard time because they're experts for like information management. So bridging that gap and looking for the right applications, doing the business cases, explaining it in a business relevant way, I think this is something which is important to go forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's where, when you look at, interestingly, when you look at Europe, what's the value of information is, interestingly, like if there's a business case done, it's done with also opportunity costs, with what is it we avoid doing, and that idea was not present with quite some of the people, although they have been working in the field very often. So they come from a very altruistic way of working. So like, yes, we can make the world a better place if people share know-how, but not so much about, okay, what's the business value? Maybe what were the most interesting sessions apart from the ones about AI? Do you have any things or any quotes in mind you want to share?
It was basically the exchange of like really people on the practical side, hearing about how the Pentagon started a know-how cleansing process and alignment process. I mean, hearing these stories is basically what's the most interesting thing and where you can learn the most.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for me it was one conversation that was about story thinking instead of storytelling, because I hadn't heard of the concept, and I thought that was a very interesting way of thinking. And just today we had the topic of story dreaming, so if you can think about a story already into the future. But the thing is, if you think in like how do you make it visible to people, then you are also able to better tell your facts. That's how I would summarize the concept at all. So I think that was, it was a very inspiring conference, but I was very tired afterwards.
Yeah, 4 days is quite a pensum.
Yeah. So maybe in one sentence, how would you summarize it, or what's your main fruit of thought you want to share?
Get the basics right. Still the truth, and it's something which will probably, let's see if we can contribute something from the European side in the US going forward. I think that exchange is always very fruitful.
Mm-hmm. And from my side, I think it's still human intelligence is the thing that wins if it's combined with artificial intelligence. So I think that's a pretty good outcome.
All right.
Good.